Ladies and gentlemen, children of the interweb, Sebastian Envy, the strong style nerd, strong style cinephile. Bit of a different format. We're going audio only for this. I've been in and around the hospital dealing with some personal stuff going on with my family, so had to do things a little bit differently. But we're here to talk about Arrow and Purgatory, back where it all began on this week's Arrow, which of course is the episode that set up the crisis. Now let us geek about that for a scant few minutes. Now at the tail end of last week's episode, Oliver and company ended up on Lian Yu following a Groundhog Day-like scenario for Oliver to understand that he cannot and will not change his crisis fate, at least at this point in time. I have a feeling things are going to get shaken up during the actual crisis. Now, this episode, in its setup to the crisis, was about airing out hurt feelings, settling the past, and getting everyone on the same page to face the impending crisis. The main plot for the group is to assemble some kind of anti-crisis device. Lila, whose secret working with the Monitor is well past out in the open, says that the weapon will not stop the crisis, but will save the heroes that can stop it. This moves Oliver to share the one nagging detail he has not let it be known to his children, the fact that he will die in the crisis. This, of course, does not sit well with Mia. Now, Mia's carrying a lot of anger. I mean, shocker there, right? One of her big issues has been Oliver putting the world in front of his family and thus not being around for them. Mia is also afraid of the finality of Oliver leaving in the crisis. This leads to some heart-to-hearts between the siblings to get past this. And one thing Mia wants to know is how William is so calm with the fact that Oliver's going to die. William says he would rather focus on the time left rather than waste it being mad at their father. Now, Mia actually takes this to heart, and she and Oliver talk about things toward the end of the episode. In her life, Mia has tried to live up to the reputation and the stories she would hear as a kid. She realizes that hearing those stories, she should be proud, as opposed to the anger that she harbored for him for leaving. But now she sees him as a hero and is grateful to get to know him as well as be a part of his heroic stories. And that's when Oliver says, the line from the promo that there are no more Green Arrow stories to tell, and that he feels that Mia is going to have her own to tell, which of course, they're going to have their spinoff. So, of course, but it was still a good, fun moment. It shows kind of how far along this whole season really has shown how far along Stephen Amell has come as an actor with some of the scenes he's had with these characters. Oliver also notes that the island is no longer a dreadful place for him. Before, it always has been a reminder of things that went wrong, people he lost. And part of the episode was dealing with ghosts of the past, like Edward Fires, and a returning Byron Mann as Yao Fei. Yao Fei and Oliver talk. They have their heart-to-heart. There were a lot of heart-to-hearts in this episode. They have theirs while they were pinned in nets from a trap that Fires set. And Oliver's first mentor tells him to say goodbye to his kids. That the real meaning of survive is spirit and what lives on. He gives an example of kind of how he remembers Shadow. He tells Oliver to live and savor the time he has left. It's kind of a retread of the lesson Oliver got in the last episode, but it still sounds great coming from Yao Fei. And it was just good to see Yao Fei again in this episode. There was some energy spike or something on the island that brought back some people that died on the island, like Fires, like Wintergreen, like Yao Fei. But they came back with a purpose to teach a lesson, and they did. Now getting back to his heart-to-heart with Mia, as before I digress there, Oliver now sees Lian Yu as truly making him a better man than when he washed up on those shores all those years ago. Now I ticked off Diggle and Lila. They have a few talks to hash out their situation. And Lila says that the Monitor has been a guardian angel. Now remember when she and Laurel had their heart-to-heart about the IED in Afghanistan? Turns out Lila was saved from the explosion by the Monitor. That she has a greater purpose in things, that's what he told her. And has, she's been shown that she must do what she's doing to protect her family on, going out on faith in the Monitor. Now Diggle isn't hearing that. Diggle also isn't hearing it when Connor suggests cutting off Roy's arm to free him from the plane crash wreckage in another part of the episode. Diggle also isn't hearing it at first when he learns that Oliver has to die. He's prepared to rage against that outcome until this episode. While last week's episode was mostly on Oliver accepting what the crisis will bring, I think this episode was about his supporting cast doing the same thing. Oliver and Diggle have a heart to heart. There's a lot of heart to hearts and a lot of hugging and crying and near crying in this episode. But Oliver and Dig have their heart to heart, where Diggle vows to be by Oliver's side until he, can't be anymore. One of the reasons why he raged against this possibility, this outcome, this destiny thus far is he's always about going into battle by his brother's side and never leaving, never leaving. He sees Oliver as a brother, so that didn't. The idea that Oliver had died, he had to let that happen, did not sit well with how he views Oliver and their relationship and how it's grown over all these years. But he's kind of, accepted that. Now, one thing Oliver asked of Diggle is to get the kids back to 2040, which Diggle says, he'll find some kind of way to do, which, I mean, they have the legends, and the legends have a time machine, space time ship. So, really isn't hard to figure out how that's going to happen. And reports have said that while we thought when the kids came to the present that means the spinoff was going to take place in the present, executive has said the spinoff will indeed take place in 2040. Not really feeling that aspect of things for reasons I've noted in other videos before, but I won't go on and on about it now. Oliver also asked Diggle to track down Felicity and reunite her with William and Mia so they do not grow up apart from each other, which if they don't, that could change the outcome of the future. So this stuff they're doing in the present is good, altruistic and everything, but it's kind of mucks with the future, and I wonder if, some of that kind of stuff is going to change what we see in the future with Mia and with other characters that are set to be in the spinoff. And as I said, Diggle has been through a lot with Oliver over the years. Nearly as much kind of drama as Oliver, and it was just a fun scene to see them settling up. It really tugged on the heartstrings, given the fact that these two have been together since the beginning. And Roy, man, losing an arm. Diggle apologized to him for bringing him back into the fold, for him to lose an arm, but Roy tells him that being there with them, with the team, being a hero, was better than living alone in Hub City. He notes that sacrifices must be made. He accepts. See, again, we're going back to episode is about others around the orbit of Oliver accepting circumstances, accepting the crisis, or accepting what's going to happen, or accepting, things. So he accepts that sacrifices must be made and just says, the arm was his sacrifice. Now, I hope he gets a cybernetic arm to fight in the crisis. Don't think that'll happen, but I'm still hoping that we get, the Huntress Jessica DeGale back for Crisis, but you know my feelings on that. But if his ride is officially over, I think he went out like a boss, and this scene with Diggle was another emotional one and handled exceptionally well by both actors. Great, great, great stuff. This episode was just, like I said, it was a lot of hugging, a lot of crying, a lot of near crying, and just a swift kick in the feels for much of this episode. Going back to the larger plot, the device that they put together at first, they think it's to be activated by Oliver, and they figure out it's going to re-kill, I guess for lack of a better way to describe it, re-kill everybody that was brought back by the energy spikes. But turns out to be the case that it's not Oliver who will activate it, it is Lila. Lila grabs it, and she opens up a portal, walks through it, and then she's gone. Presumably to reconnect with the Monitor, because after Mia and Oliver have their heart-to-heart, he shows back up, or Lila shows back up in her Harbinger costume, says she's now a harbinger of things to come, and then the skies go red. She says the crisis, has started. And that's where it leaves off. Renee, Dinah, Laurel, they do some things. They get cut up, get bruised and battered. They don't do a whole lot in this episode to really matter too much, but they still kind of do. But like I said, this episode was chiefly about Oliver's supporting cast accepting what is going to happen, be it his kids, be it Diggle. It's about accepting circumstances, accepting things, and just everybody being on the same page to work for the greater good, to be heroes, to save people, putting the needs of the many out, before the needs of themselves to stop the crisis. What exact sacrifices will be made in the crisis? I'm hopeful that the stakes will be large, that there will be real consequences, that things just will not get retconned or undone. Stuff that maybe something happens in part two, somebody dies or something. It's a crucial, important character that dies. I'm hoping that it doesn't get undone by the end. I hope things stick and things matter and that there's lasting impact. Otherwise, you just undercut the whole crisis and the potential of it and just some of our expectations of it. You just kind of, it's a slap in the face to us who have been waiting literally a calendar year for this to happen. So, like I said, hoping they do some daring things. We'll see, I guess. In a few short days, we will see how things are going to go. But again, this episode for me still it was a good episode. It was a lot of hugging, a lot of crying, near crying, good scenes, good emotional scenes, and they can have these sort of scenes because they've earned it. We've grown with these characters over 8 years of our lives. We have seen these characters, their highs, their lows, their bright moments, their terrible moments, their mistakes, their triumphs, their successes. I mean, we've been there for it. We've been along for the ride. So when they have these smaller emotional exchanges, it has weight, it has meaning, and it's earned. And I'm there for all of it. So again, this was another strong episode. I could give it like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. Again, the only real low point of this season, this final season, has been the stupidity and the way that Zoe went out, and the plot-induced stupidity that allowed her to turn her back and get stabbed. That's the only low point for me in this entire final season thus far, and the only one I really anticipate there being. Will that change? I guess we'll see. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully they go out on a high note, and we can remember Arrow just going out in the best possible way it could. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, those are some of my scattered thoughts on this episode. What do you guys out there think? Let me know in those comments below. Social media, name is up there. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and let's have conversations, man. Let's have them there. Let's have them here. I'm on Reddit. I'm on a few other message boards. Just looking to share thoughts and just talk Crisis, talk Arrowverse, talk comic books and superheroes and all this just fun stuff, man. Just let us geek.